Imagine this. You're 19 years old, driving home on a spring night. The road is quiet, the stars hang over endless farmland, and you're only a few miles from home. You call your parents, stay on the phone with them as you walk towards safety, your voice calm, your steps steady. And then, in an instant, you cry out, 2 words cut short, and you vanish. No trace, no body, no explanation. Just silence. This is the story of Brandon Swanson, a disappearance so chilling and so unexplainable, it feels less like reality, and more like a nightmare that never ends. It begins on a spring night, May 14, 2008, in the quiet farmlands of western Minnesota. A 19-year-old college student named Brandon Swanson is on his way home after celebrating the end of the school semester with friends. He's cheerful, in good spirits, and there's nothing unusual about the night. He's simply heading back to his family's house in Marshall. But sometime after midnight, something goes wrong. Brandon misses a turn, takes a back road, and ends up in an unfamiliar area. His car, a green Chevy Lumina, veers slightly off the gravel path and becomes stuck in a ditch. Not wrecked, not damaged, just immobilized in the dark countryside. It's past midnight, the landscape is rural and isolated, and Brandon realizes he needs help. He pulls out his phone and calls his parents. Calmly, he explains the situation. He's stuck near the small town of Lind, just a few miles from home. He asks them to come pick him up. His parents, Brian and Annette, get into their pickup truck and drive out immediately. Brandon stays on the phone with them, describing landmarks to help guide their way. But as they drive through Lind, searching every road, they can't see his car. Street by street, gravel road by gravel road, there's nothing. Brandon grows frustrated. From his end of the call, the landmarks are obvious. From theirs, nothing makes sense. Still, the conversation is steady. Brandon doesn't sound panicked. Just impatient, maybe tired, wanting the night to be over. Finally, he tells them he'll walk toward the lights of Marshall, which he can see glowing faintly in the distance. His parents agree to meet him there. And so, Brandon begins walking through the fields, phone pressed to his ear, his parents driving slowly, both sides trying desperately to close the gap. For nearly 47 minutes, Brandon stays on the line with them. They talk as he walks. He describes fences he climbs over, gravel roads he crosses, the direction of lights ahead. His voice is steady. His steps are determined. And then, it happens. Out of nowhere, his tone shifts. His voice sharpens. And Brandon shouts 2 words that will haunt his family forever. OSH. And the line goes dead. Just like that. His parents call back again and again. At first, the phone rings, but there's no answer. Minutes pass. Hours pass. Brandon never picks up. That night, 19-year-old Brandon Swanson vanished into the rural darkness. And to this day, no one has ever seen him again. As the first light of dawn broke over the Minnesota countryside, Brandon's parents were already deep in panic. They had spent the entire night driving, searching every road, calling his name into the dark. Nothing. By morning, they contacted the police. But at first, law enforcement didn't treat the case with urgency. Brandon was 19, legally an adult. Maybe he just wanted to be left alone, they suggested. Maybe he'd come back in a day or 2. But Brian and Annette knew better. Their son wasn't the type to run off without telling someone. And the last thing they had heard from him was a sudden cry of alarm before silence. This wasn't a case of a runaway. Something was wrong. Eventually, law enforcement began a search. What they discovered would make the mystery even stranger. They located Brandon's car, but it wasn't anywhere near Lind, the town he thought he was close to. Instead, it was found outside Taunton, nearly 25 miles away in the opposite direction. The car itself offered no clues. It wasn't damaged. The doors were shut. The keys were gone. It was simply stuck in a ditch, just as Brandon had said. But the fact that he'd been so wrong about his location was alarming. He had been convinced he was near Lind. In reality, he was miles away, heading toward nothing but open farmland. When search dogs were brought in, they picked up his scent from the car. The trail led away across fields, gravel roads, and fences. Brandon had been walking with purpose, just as he described on the phone. Eventually, the dogs followed his trail to the edge of the Yellow Medicine River. And there, the scent either stopped, or continued faintly on the other side, depending on which account you believe. Had Brandon tried to cross the river? Had he slipped in the darkness, been swept away by the current? Dive teams scoured the river. Authorities searched the banks. Volunteers covered miles of farmland. But no trace of Brandon was found. Not a shoe. Not a piece of clothing. Not even his phone. That phone, chillingly, kept ringing for hours after his disappearance. His parents dialed again and again, and the line would ring, but no one answered. The device was out there, still powered on but silent. It was as if Brandon had simply walked out of existence. The search for Brandon Swanson intensified in the days that followed. Volunteers, police, and even the FBI joined the effort. Helicopters hovered above, search dogs combed the fields, and divers repeatedly scoured the Yellow Medicine River. But every effort ended the same way, with nothing. The river revealed no clues. The land showed no signs of struggle. His scent trail ended in silence. Theories began to emerge. Perhaps Brandon had drowned in the river. Or maybe he had crossed successfully, only to collapse somewhere beyond, his body hidden by the vast, open fields. But if that were true, why had no trace ever been found? Searchers went back again and again year after year, using better technology, drones, and sonar. Still, there was nothing. And so, the questions multiplied. Was Brandon's final exclamation, "Oh," the moment he slipped into the river? Was it the sound of him stumbling or falling or realizing he was lost? Or had he seen something, or someone, out there in the dark? The land remained silent. The mystery deepened. Weeks turned into months. Months into years. Brandon's case refused to fade. The Swanson family never stopped pushing. They organized vigils. They worked with authorities. They fought for legislation, leading to Brandon's Law, requiring immediate investigation when adults go missing under suspicious circumstances. But for all their efforts, there were no answers. Searchers returned to the Yellow Medicine River again and again. Nothing. They searched the fields with drones, ATVs, and advanced sonar. Still nothing. And so, the case took on a haunting presence. People in Minnesota began to speak of Brandon's story like a ghost tale. A boy who stepped into the night and never came back. To this day, locals say you can't drive those roads without thinking of him. The fields are too vast, too empty, and too silent. Somewhere out there, they believe, lies the truth. But the truth refuses to surface. Now, more than a decade later, Brandon Swanson's disappearance remains one of the most chilling mysteries in American history. 3 theories dominate. The first, drowning. That Brandon fell into the Yellow Medicine River and was swept away. But after so many searches, the river has yielded no evidence. The second, exposure. That he made it across the river but collapsed somewhere in the fields, lost to hypothermia or injury. Yet again, no remains, no belongings, not a trace. And the third, foul play. That someone else was out there that night. That his final words, "Oh," were the moment he realized he wasn't alone. But no evidence of that has ever been found. And so the mystery remains. Brandon Swanson left his car that night. He walked into the Minnesota darkness. He stayed on the phone with his parents for 47 minutes. And then, with a sudden cry, he was gone. His parents are left with the echo of his voice. And the rest of us are left with the chilling reminder that sometimes, people don't just disappear in stories or legends or horror movies. Sometimes they vanish in real life on the quiet back roads just outside of town. The question is not just where Brandon went. The question is, how can someone leave behind so little and yet leave behind so much fear? If you were gripped by this story, don't let it disappear into silence. Share it. Keep Brandon's name alive. And if you want more stories like this, real-life mysteries that pull you deep into the unknown, then subscribe, join us, and stay close. Because Brandon's story is just one of many. And the truth is, the shadows are full of mysteries waiting to be told. The story of Brandon Swanson isn't just about loss. It's about the unknown. And the unknown is still waiting. And that's exactly why stories like this matter. So if you found yourself drawn in tonight, if you felt the weight of Brandon's final words, the eerie silence that followed, and the unanswered questions that linger to this very day, then don't let it end here. Hit the like button. Not just for this video, but to push Brandon's story further out into the world where maybe, just maybe, the right person hears it. Subscribe to this channel because there are more mysteries like this. Stories of people who vanished into thin air, cases that remain unsolved, and moments in history that are darker and stranger than fiction. And if you truly want to support what we're doing here, share this video with someone who loves a good mystery. Because the more voices that remember Brandon, the harder it becomes for his story to slip into silence. One night in 2008, a 19-year-old walked into the dark and never came out. Tonight, you've walked with him step by step into that same uncertainty. But this isn't the last story like his. Far from it. And if you want to keep searching the shadows with us, then stay close. Because together, we'll keep asking the questions that the darkness doesn't want answered. Remember Brandon Swanson. And remember, sometimes the scariest mysteries are the ones that are real.